Hi, it's Kyle Koeberlein. I'm the sales director at Bluegrass Truck, Bus, and RV. Really though, I'm just part of an awesome team that we've kind of developed something since last year and the first of this year. So Bethany Hughes is part of our Renegade RV sales team. And then James Wade came on board the first of the year. James has over a decade in our shop helping a lot of you guys with working on your Renegade RVs and helping our techs have the supplies, and just, I mean, really just a huge value and asset to that department back there. But we took his skill set and he is now our RV sales specialist. So a lot of you guys will get to talk to him when you reach out to us. But I'm gonna go ahead and get with this. Behind me, I've got a 2025 Renegade Explorer. It's in the Tundra with the Blackout Package. And I'll just start doing a walk around. So I've got the hood up just so I can show you a few things down here in the front. So this is a Cascadia 116 with the DD13, 525 horsepower, 1,850 foot-pounds of torque. It also is equipped with collision mitigation, lane departure, and adaptive cruise control. That little black box in the front is the radar that helps with that system. So I have been in situations where, you know, snow and ice will build up. That can cause that system to disable, but that's in rare cases. Just aware of what could happen depending on the weather you're driving in. And then another part of that collision mitigation system is it actually has a camera up top. So some of the early collision mitigation systems, they were just a radar, and they were a little clunky sometimes. They may see a bridge buttress, you know, they would brake a little or bump the brakes and would throw drivers off. But with the combination of radar and with the camera system, I mean, they're pretty much spot on. Of course, you got LED headlights. You can see one of the bullet cameras on the fender here for your turn signal on the left-hand side. Many years ago, the trucking industry, because this is a commercial truck, the commercial industry went to a lot of translucent reservoirs, so it's easy to see kind of what the level of your fluids are, easy to get to check the oil level, and just easy, you know, with a commercial style truck with the engine out front. It's one of the huge pluses to a Super C. It is just so easy to get to all the components and to have the vehicle serviced. So on your, of course, this is a commercial truck chassis. It's basically, it's a semi-truck, right, with an RV built onto it. You know, whenever you have breakdowns or issues like with tires and stuff like that and need roadside assistance, you know, you always want to act like you're a truck. You know, when you call a tow company or a tire repair guy, like, you know, act and tell them like, you know, yes, I have an RV, but it is a truck. That is a commercial truck tire. That is something that a commercial truck outfit would be able to either fix or replace. So just remember, you're a truck. So when it comes to towing and all that kind of stuff, service, you're a truck more than really an RV at this point. As far as in the engine compartment, I know, like, this is a little dusty. I apologize. You know, you don't want to pressure wash. It's, you know, I would not pressure wash a lot of things in the engine compartment. You just run a high risk of getting a sensor or electronic damage. I mean, you can, if you want to lightly do it, but I err to be very cautious about pressure washing the engine compartment. You know, really, if you want it to be showroom shiny, do it with a hand rag and a spray bottle. This coach has an AquaHot 450 system on it, which means it has engine preheat. That's the coolant line coming from the AquaHot with a shutoff valve. That is so that you can bypass the coolant going from the engine. And the reason for that is there have been some rare cases under a heavy pull, like in a steep mountain at altitude, causing the AquaHot to boil over. It doesn't damage it, it just drops your AquaHot level, and you'll have to top it back off. So if you get in that kind of situation, you can bypass that. Because even with the AquaHot system off, you know, you're still sending coolant back to the exchanger for the AquaHot system without it being shut off. Engine, like I said, is 525 horsepower, 1,850 foot-pounds of torque. Number one advantage to the Renegade Explorer is it is the #1 coach when it comes to power to weight ratio. The GVW is 41,000 pounds. You can tow 20,000 pounds, and you have at least, I mean, I weighed the last 25 Explorer we had in, and you had over 6,000 pounds of available cargo capacity. That's a lot. Now that when I weighed that coach, it did not have water in it, you know, either the fresh tanks or the gray or black tanks, but still 6,000 pounds is a ton. As we walk down the side, that is your lane departure system here on the side. So it's basically a radar. As you can see, this is all blacked out. I mean, when you do the Tundra paint job, I mean, I think the blackout is the only way to go. Same thing with the accent and handles. Of course, Renegade, custom built steel boxes, dual latch points, as you can see down here. Renegade does supply an air line. We definitely opt to have them sprayed with like a rhino lining type material. What else? There's like a, whatever the brand, but it's a sprayed cargo box. It just makes it a lot more durable. A lot of times what we see from like the rust and corrosion aspect on cabs and like boxes and stuff is they actually rust from the inside out because of like when you have stuff in the boxes and the vibration of the road rubbing and causing like chafing on the metal, and then of course moisture, and then of course it's harder for something enclosed to dry out versus like the bottom of a box or bottom of a cab is it'll dry. It's exposed to air. But yeah, your airline hose that Renegade provides, those are your slide locks. I talk more about those in depth like during delivery. You know, when anybody comes to pick up a coach, I mean, our deliveries average anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, and it really just depends on how much experience you have with coaches. You could have owned 50 coaches, but if you know, I could still spend 2 hours updating you on kind of what Renegade has to offer. Most of your storage bays on the camp side of the coach are going to be storage. It's nice that this passes through for longer items. Of course, you have an exterior TV with a sound bar. As you can see, I've got the awning out. It's got the LED light that runs down. Awning covers, which, I mean, all your Renegades are going to have awning covers. AquaHot 450 system, that's your hydronic heating system. It uses electric or diesel. That is your hot water and your heat for the coach, at least your hydronic heating side. You do have heat pumps, so you can heat from heat pumps. And this coach is also equipped with heated floors. The AquaHot system, full tilt, uses 0.4 of a gallon per hour in diesel fuel. And if you turn the electric function on and the diesel function on, it's going to decide which one to use based on demand. So initially it's going to utilize the electric side more, but then if you're trying to heat the coach, take a shower, diesel's going to kick in to offset that. The way to look at the electric side of the AquaHot is more of a preheat, keeping the unit ready. You don't want it to freeze if you're in cold weather environments while you're traveling. Get a little closer look. You got some shutoffs and stuff down here. One of the most common issues that we have with the AquaHot, we have a lot of good luck out of the 450 and been selling that product for a long time. But just out of the nature of the coaches, they get tested and everything, and we test them during our PDI process. But until you really put some hours on them, it's possible you could burp a little air, which I've had several customers have that issue. Not a big deal. It'll burp some air. The level will drop. And then there's a float inside that bottle, and so it won't let the hydronic heating system kick on, and you just got to add more coolant to get it back up to the level it's supposed to be. And like most of the time for new coach owners on a new unit, if they have an issue, that's typically the issue is just burped air. We need to top it back off just because now that you've actually put some hours of use on it, whether it be a whole night or whole day or 30, 40 hours, it's possible. It doesn't always happen, but it is very possible. You got keyless entry out here. So on this side of the coach, the only bay that's got something in it is the one with the AquaHot next to the outside door, exterior door, which on an Explorer is mid-shipped on a 40 ERB. You have a cargo bay here. We don't typically order them with the fridge and freezer because that's easily added, but we do add the option for a slide tray because that's just a really nice feature to have. Whether you're going to put a 12-volt refrigerator on it or a toolbox, like it's just nice to have a heavy-duty slide tray for that purpose. So we do order it with the slide tray. One of the things that I highly recommend and we have done for customers is if you got a 12-volt fridge, I forget what it's called. There's actually a technical term for a cigarette plug, but you know, say you got a fridge out here that's full of like expensive, you know, steaks, and you know that's kind of the way I travel in our RV. You know, so the vibration and bumping, it's possible that that little plug could come loose, right? Because it's just a friction mount plug. We will typically, if we're doing the install, we will recommend, and it doesn't cost much, we'll convert that to an Anderson power pole, and then we'll cut the cord on the cooler or the fridge, and then we will put an Anderson power pole on the 12-volt plug side that's like a cigarette adapter, and then we'll put an Anderson power pole on the cord too, so that it can be more plugged in to that spot versus kind of being shoved in a little friction mount plug. And that way the Anderson power pole is way less likely to vibrate loose during travels, and you come out here and everything and your cooler is thawed out. That's just our recommendation, and that's an easy change. Of course, this coach comes with the whole house central vac. They do supply additional porcelain tile with the coach. The porcelain tile is, you know, porcelain versus ceramic. Ceramic tile is not as durable as porcelain, so that's why we use porcelain tile. It's a lot more durable tile. Not saying it's impossible to bust one, that's why they provide extras. And if you crack one, it's because you dropped an extremely heavy pot on like a fine point or edge or corner. That's what'll crack a tile, not just dropping something heavy on it. Of course, your hoses and stuff for your central vac, and then you can see the central vac out here in this bay. Going across the back, it's not a one-piece fiberglass cap. They do it in two pieces. And the reason for that is that more than likely you're going to hit one of these corners down here and bust the fiberglass. And that way you just have to replace like that bottom piece of that fiberglass instead of an entire rear cap. A lot of your Class A motorhomes is one big solid cap. Of course, you can see your rear camera up there. That's your air supply on the back if you have an air trailer. And the glad hands are actually inside of that bay over there. You've got the camera hookup for the Voyager. If you got a camera on the back of your trailer, so you can tie that in. And then you have your plug on the back for stop, tail, and turn. And like I said, you got it comes with a hitch, and then you have it's 20,000 pound capacity with a 2,000 pound tongue weight. That little pipe down there is the exhaust for your main diesel. Just kidding. That's your exhaust pipe for your generator. The generator, you know, they do a good job of exiting that to the rear of the coach, so you don't have fumes coming up around your slides and stuff. So just getting that farther away from your coach the best they can. Of course, that up there is the vent for the dryer coming off the back of the coach. So the back right corner here, we have our shore cord. It is a 50 amp cord. There is a transfer switch in there, and that does have a surge guard system, so it will protect the coach. Now keep in mind, when you have a 50 amp hookup for a motorhome, and you actually have 100 available amps going to your coach, because you've got two legs of 110 that are both capable of 50 amp. So it's a little confusing. So you technically have 100 amps available service. You got one 50 amp leg that's feeding one half of your coach, and another 50 amp leg that's feeding the other half of the coach. So the reason I point that out is if you ever have to use one of these dog bones to go from like a 50 amp to a 30 amp, you're actually taking away one of the legs altogether. And so half your coach won't get power. Now, they set these up so that you'll get like a lot of your priority functions when you dog bone it down to, you know, a 30 amp or 20 or 15. Charging circuits, refrigerators, several outlets, TVs, you know, a lot of stuff you mostly use. You know, where you'll lose on taking it down to 30 amp, it's going to cut out like an air conditioner, your dryer, and some heavy appliances that may use a lot more power than what 30 amp can provide. It is on a power retract reel. They work super well, super strong. The only thing I ever have to do on occasion is like I'll come in here when it's rolling in. If it starts to kind of pull to one side too much, I just give it the old little tap, and that's all it takes. You do have an outlet out of here. I've learned this from my own mistake, but this cord like pulls out, like there's nothing holding it in. And so if you've got the cord rolled up and the plug's sitting here, like bounce something down the road, it actually will feed out. And I've actually had one drop through the hole. My bad, I should have knew better. So definitely put your plug in there when you're traveling to keep your cord from falling out of the coach. I've only done it one time, so don't hold that against me too much. It's just, it was a rush moment, and like we weren't even going that far, but believe it or not, within the first 10 miles it happened. So you have an 8,000 watt generator. That generator is more than capable of powering this entire coach. You know, where you could run into some limitations is when you start adding accessories. Like, so if you've got air conditioners running, you got a coffee pot running, and then you go to throw in a hair dryer, you know, you could overload your generator. So 8,000 watts available power coming from the generator. So to give you a mind, when you got a 50 amp cord plugged in, which is 100 amps of available power, that's 12,000 watts of available power that you have versus the 8,000. So this is definitely giving you a little bit more, which is a ton. This is more than capable of powering this coach and doing what you need it to do. You can start the generator from out here. It's got a clock out here for, you know, how many hours you're on it as well. You've got docking lights so that when you're backing into a campsite, you can, you know, at nighttime, lights will shine back so you can see your site. I'm on like the tail end of recovering from flu and bronchitis and all that, so I'm trying my best here to not get choked up. So if I start sounding different, I'm sorry. So these coaches now use the sea level 2 system, way more accurate. From out here and inside, you can see what the levels are. You've got a translucent water filter. The water filter is not actually in here. We don't put those in there until the customers take delivery. And then whenever we put water into the coaches, we filter it at the source to keep everybody's water systems very clean. So you do have your level system up here. Of course, your ability to dump the black tank, dump the gray tank. And then you have a single lever that's 2-position. So either, you know, so when you've got water hooked up to your water hose, which this is on a power reel as well. When you've got water hooked up to this, this is 2-position. You down for tank fill, so whatever water is going through your hose is going to your tank, and then you can flip it up to city, and any water that's going through your hose is going straight to your fixtures. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. You do have a cable out here for if there's cable access at a campsite, and you got a black tank wash. I personally don't use a black tank wash a lot. That's something I might do 3 or 4 times a year, but definitely not every time. You know, all the waste that's going into your black tank, you should already be putting water in your black tank before you start using your black tank, so 3 or 4 gallons. And then your toilets are macerating everything that goes into your black tanks. It's already like ground down to a fine pulp as it is. So I just don't find necessarily need to like black tank wash. If you want to, go for it. It's up to you, but I don't feel like that's really necessary to do it every time, just every so often. And that's something I can talk about more detail. This blue hose is just a water hose, like spraying off your doggy's paws or boots and stuff like that. This is a spigot out here. Also can be used as a low point drain for the coach. And then this is a low point drain. This is your flip for your hose reel. This is not equipped with flow jet. I'm personally not a big fan of flow jet unless there's a reason to justify it. It makes the process of dumping a lot slower. But if you have like a hookup at home where you got your RV parked at a barn or next to your, like my RV is in a building right next to our house, and like FlowJet could be a little handy because, FlowJet runs it in a much smaller hose, and you could run that hose over to like a clean out on your sewer system or your septic tank, and then the FlowJet would pump it over there. So, that's a little more convenient for longer distances in my opinion. Versus running like, in my case, I'd have to run 40 foot of, the bigger hose. That's a lot of sewer hose. And then you got to put that somewhere and store it and all that kind of stuff. But FlowJet is super easy to add too. So that's like another reason we don't order it. And if a customer's like, oh, I'm dead set on having FlowJet, we can easily add it for the same amount of cost as if we order it from Renegade. This down here is your factory Stinky Slinky. That's just nice to have for basic dumping. I wouldn't necessarily use that all the time because it doesn't have the fitting on the end to hook it to a sewer hose or a sewer dump at a site. That's just more like for dump stations. But if you need to, I would definitely get like a longer hose with the fittings and stuff on it. 15, 20 foot's typically what I go for. So you have 2 75-gallon tanks here. One's your black, one on your right is your black, the one on your left is your gray. And the reason I know this one on this side is your black is because your macerator toilets have their own sensors. And I can feel them right there. So you've got a 50% sensor. This is Velcro, I could pull this off, but You get the point. There's a 50% sensor here. There's a 100% sensor here. So when your black gets to here, you know your total will light up yellow. When it gets up here, it'll highlight red. So that gives you an idea. That way you know exactly where you're at on your tank visually, because you know where those two sensors are at. And those sensors are completely independent of the sea level system. That's strictly feeding information to the toilet. So down here is where we've got our gates. This is of course for your black tank. That one's on the gray for the gray tank. Now what they've done here and what they anticipate is that you unscrew this, you pull this out, you hook, that way when you take this off, what poop drizzle, like the poop drizzle, right? So what poop drizzle comes out of there lands on the ground and not inside your coach. Then you run your hose across and you drop it down this hole, and then you hook it up to your sewer. What I highly recommend, and I'm happy to help with, is you can go to Camping World or order online, where I can get it for you if you're picking up a coach, is add a 5-inch clear fitting here, which would stop somewhere about right here. We can add an additional Valterra gate right here, and it'll fit, like at an angle like this, and you can turn the handle sideways. And then a 2-foot hose with a cap on the end of it, right? So that'll all sit in here. So that way, when this never has to be taken out, this can just stay in permanently. Let's just sit it there for now. That can stay there permanently, and then you have this 2-foot hose in here. And what's nice about that is you take this out, you drop the 2-foot hose out. I can take that 2-foot hose, I can lift it up like this up here, right? Take my other hose and then slap it right in there. And that way I'm doing all my connections outside of the coach, and I'm not getting anything inside the coach. It makes it super clean, super easy. It's easier to get the hoses separated, and that way when you go to put the cap back on this, you can hold it up a little bit and screw, put the cap back on there. And then the reason I recommended putting a clear fitting here is because that way if any of these gates are leaking, because these are cable driven gates and this has got a little set screw in here, it's possible that will stretch with time, and then you go to push it in and it doesn't like close all the way. Well, then it's got like a super slow leak, but a super slow leak over a long period of time builds up. So then there's been stories where people's like pipes will fill up. They go take this off and it's more than a poop drizzle. It's a poop waterfall. Like, so made myself laugh. Okay, so that clear fitting lets you see kind of what's going on, and then you have an additional gate here that stops it. So like, oh, you know what? Next time I dump, I probably need to adjust one of these or figure out why these gates are leaking, and it just makes it a lot easier. Like, hope that makes sense. Just if you have questions about that, if you already have a Renegade or want to know like the parts list, just reach out to me. I'll send you a parts list or tell you where to buy the parts to use. So this is the other side. Of course, this is your gray tank, and then you can see the other gate back there. So on this Explorer, I have this has the additional option for a second 3,000 watt Victron inverter. So you've got two 3,000 watt Victron inverters back there. You can see your charge controller down there at the bottom, and that's your Servo GX. I have all these same components on my own motorhomes. I'm very familiar with them. They are hybrid inverters, so if you're plugged into a 15 amp outlet at one of your friend's house for a long weekend, the inverters can kick in and offset power demand for microwave and that kind of stuff. And then with the second inverter, it'll actually run one of your air conditioners. Now it's set up for the front air conditioner, but we can change that to be for the rear air conditioner. Standard from Renegade, you've got 3 200 watt solar panels. We added the option for 2 additional solar panels. So this coach has 1,000 watts of solar on the roof. The Victron components are super efficient. I'm glad they started offering the Victron componentry. Some of the other stuff we were using, it was great quality stuff, but Victron they do a good job of creating a lot of components that integrate together really well. So that Servo GX back there is basically the brain that combines it all together to put it into a display format, so you can kind of see what's going on, like what your inverters are doing, what your solar is doing, how much power is going back to your batteries, how much is coming out, which I can show you some of that stuff when I go inside of the coach. Now, because we have 2 inverters, only makes sense to go to lithium batteries and a decent lithium battery bank. Those are Dragonfly Energy batteries, which is the exact same company as Battleborn. Dragonfly is the branding they use for what goes into the RV market at the manufacturing level. Those are GC3s. They're internally heated. Each one of those is 270 amp hours. Oh, I should have pre-done the math. That's 70, 140, 210, 810 amp hours of lithium, which is a ton, which comes out to figure out the available wattage, do the 810 times 12. I just off the top of my head, I don't want to waste your time while I sit here and do the math in my head. So to figure out the available wattage, do the 810 times 12, and then that tells you how many watts you have. So for example, if you're running an air conditioner, once an air conditioner is running, it's probably I've had to guess like 12 to 1300 watts on one of those 15,000 BTU heat pumps, and that would give you kind of an idea of how many hours you can run. Now keep in mind, your air conditioner doesn't pull 12 to 1300 watts constantly. That's when the compressor is running. So the air conditioner is going to kick on and off. So I've got 4 GC3s on my coach, and I mean I can run my air all night when it's 70 outside, like if I'm boondocking at a Bass Pro Shop or a Cabela's, and I still have 40 or 50% battery left at that point, just because it is going to kick on and off and that kind of stuff. If you got like, I could do an hour-long video just on electrical and inverters and batteries, so please feel free to reach out to me or James Wade, and we can go in a lot more detail, just talking about that kind of stuff. I mean, our dealership, we are not about just going out and selling selling a product. We don't have, we don't run our sales department where, a guy runs out and he's trying to sell you something. Like, we work as a team to educate customers. We use all our assets as individuals of what we're the strongest about. So like, if James knows that I can talk batteries better than he can, he'll get me involved with a customer. And, or if I know he knows something better than me because of all his service experience, I'll drag him in, because we want to make sure customers get the experience and that education, so they feel confident about what they're buying, and they just have a greater understanding. Like, that's how we treat our customers. It's all about customer experience and doing the right thing. If we don't sell you something, like, we get it. If you go a different route, we get it. A customer referral would be awesome. If we treated you right, I mean, customer referrals are always, very greatly appreciated. But if you got more questions about batteries, just let me know, or us know, I guess. Of course, this is up on the front end. You've got a block heater down here. Odds are you'll never need to use that block heater unless you're in like some super cold climates. All the newer trucks have grid heaters on them, so when you turn the key over, it heats up the air intake. They'll fire right up. I mean, I know all our commercial trucks outside, even when it's 10, I might turn the key twice, like once, wait for the wait to start lamp to go off, and then like turn it again, let it heat up even more, and then they fire right up. This is magnetic. There's the access to your DEF tank, and then you do have a single tank on an Explorer, and you have 120 gallons of diesel. Well, it's a 120-gallon diesel tank. Technically, you're not supposed to fill it to full capacity, but you're going to have well over 100 gallons of diesel. And then the last thing I'll point out is that's your vent. So your microwave, the vent over the stove, is actually ducted outside the coach. It's not just filtered and blown back into the coach. And then, like I mentioned, on the roof, we do have 1,000 watts of solar, and then we also, this came with the factory installed Starlink as well. Starlink, I mean, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but I mean, in today's era, internet is the way to go, and then utilizing streaming services. I feel like Renegade, for 2026 model year, doesn't even pre-wire for satellite dish anymore, because it's just becoming less and less common. Now, you can pay to have it pre-wired for satellite, or you can add satellite, but even if it used to be, if you didn't even order satellite, they would still pre-wire for it. They're not even pre-wiring for it. We're also happy to talk about internet solutions because, yes, there's Starlink, but there's also other solutions that can be used as backups or in different scenarios and of that nature. Something I want to show real quick before I open up this coach. Renegade does a phenomenal job of making their coaches extremely usable closed. So it's very easy for me to walk down the hallway here. I get to my dinette, my refrigerator, my microwave, my stove. I mean, you know, you could even, I mean, it's just, you can get to everything. That way, if you are the boondocker type that likes to stop at a Harvest Host for a quick overnight, or, you know, a Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop without having to like set up shop, you can easily, you know, stop driving, head back here, and, you know, lay down. Now, with the slides in the rear, you can't get to the rear bathroom without crawling over the bed. But you have a half bath and a 40 ERB, so you do have a toilet right here and a sink right across from the midship entry. So real quick, just before I open everything up. So as we go into the coach, one of the changes for 2025 was a 2-inch wider entry door. So one, just for getting in and out, and then two, if you ever need to change out furniture or take out a fridge, it just makes it that much easier down the road. So as we go, so this is going to sound so silly, but one of my favorite things about a lot of these Renegades is the fact that the stairs cut under, and it's not like a storage space, because we struggle with our family, especially with the 2 kids. It's like where to put your shoes. And so this is so convenient as far as like keeping the dirt out of your coach. The sand is, you know, yeah, this area's gonna get a little dirty or whatever, but you just like step up there, slide your shoes underneath, and, you know, go on in, like, and they're not in the way. Like, it sounds so simple, but such a key element of RVing, because a lot of times you are places where it's sandy, dirty, mud, you know, whatever. You know, I mean, it's just, I just wish I had a place to put my shoes easier in the front. But as you walk into the entry door here, you have your battery disconnect switch, which that's the disconnect switch for the chassis. The coach side, which disconnects the lithium batteries. And then you have an E-start and a step override. The step override is what keeps the steps from going in and out when you're parked somewhere, when you close and open the door. And the E-start is what ties both battery groups together. So let's say that, like, your generator, you left lights, TV, refrigerator on, but no way for the generator to kick on, and it draws the batteries down and the system shuts down. Now, lithium batteries are going to protect themselves, so they're way better about not getting damaged from drawing them down like a lead acid battery will, but it still may have enough juice to like crank your generator over. Well, what you can do is you hit the E-start, and it ties the batteries that start the main diesel engine together with the batteries that run the house, and it does it, I think, for about 30 seconds. When I click this, and I should have showed you guys in that bay out there, there's a little battery isolator manager that's green on the wall in the battery compartment, and it's got a solenoid in it that kicks over to tie them together. So when you click this, I won't say anything, you might be able to hear it click. But yeah, I heard it click over, and now those 2 battery groups are together. And you can tell by looking at the display, because the voltage readouts for the chassis and the house will be identical, because they're sharing the same, they're just on the same circuit at that point. Fire extinguisher. Oh, I heard the, it just clicked back over off that E-start function. And right here to the left, we have our first multiplex panel for the Firefly system. I just recently got back, me and James actually, so me, James, were at Renegade, and we did the Firefly training with Firefly. One of the best trainings I've ever been to, because they put like a mock-up system on the table in front of you, and we went through like troubleshooting, and, you know, I wanted us to be able to understand that as best we could, because one of our things we try to do is when customers are out and about and they have issues or need troubleshooting, that we, you know, on a Sunday afternoon, and you guys text us, you know, we try to help when we can. Like, our service after the sale is, we try to be top notch. We're not perfect, but we do try to be top notch. And so the thing to know about Firefly, you know, this is a wireless panel. This panel sends a wireless signal to that module to tell it to, you know, turn lights on and all that kind of stuff. So it's possible that, you know, if you hit a button here for, where's all off? It's like you hit all off and it doesn't do anything. It's possible that this isn't getting a successful signal to the main panel. Now, you know it's sending a successful signal, of course, when everything comes on. So it's possible that it could be a a switch malfunction, or some of these have batteries in them, some of them are hardwired. Whenever you go to remove these to look at them or get them replaced, or if you want to change a battery, is just make sure you pinch at the top. There's 2 tabs, and pinch at the bottom, and it'll pop right off. Do not grab in the middle and try to yank it off. You'll end up breaking one of these tabs off on the back. Now, the good news is it's a little plastic plate that you can easily order and replace. So I'm a little tight here on space, so I apologize. So right here inside the door, you've got your breakers. So up top here, you have one of your main lines coming in: inverter 1, rear tile, inverter 2, range, rear AC, front tile, aqua hot, washer, outside refrigerator, and dryer. So the thing to know about this panel is that everything on this panel will run off in the shore power and the generator, because this has got a lot of your large items on it, right? So your inverter, your 2 inverters, so like the power going to the inverter from the shore and the generator, and then the output for the tile, and of course your AC units and your washer and your dryer. Like, those are high energy use items. So everything on this panel is fed by the generator and shore power. Whereas if you look down here, everything down here is everything that's fed by the generator, with the exception of your front AC. Well, no, shit, I think that, ooh, sorry about that. There actually is a front AC output down here for the inverter. So, so everything down here is what's being run off the shore power, the generator as well, but also is fed by an inverter, one of your 2 inverters. So you can see that the vacuum, the bath, the refrigerator, the microwave, receptacles, front AC, rear slide out, because those are Swintex, kitchen, GFI, AV, TV, and subwoofer are all things that will run off your inverters. And then, of course, right here, you got an awesome coat closet. Like, another thing, like, where I put my coats and stuff. Like, they really did a good job of making this a very livable, like, clean environment coach. That's my wife, she's like, I just want to have a clean environment at home. Like, I don't want to have stuff, so they actually have, like, a lot of good places to get a lot of stuff like coats and hats and, your shoes out of the way. Up top here, we have some more storage above the door. And then we'll just work our way down this way. This coach, so like a porcelain tile floor, it is heated. The interior on this coach is Everest with Lakewood stained cabinets. You have theater seating, so it's power recline theater seats. The windows for 2020, I gotta cheat off my sheet here. The windows for 2025 are now 6 inches wider. They were dinette and sofa window width increased by 6 inches. Now 54 inches. They were 48. So they went to a wider window. Of course, what's nice about the windows, they do tilt out. So if you want to have airflow and it's raining a little bit, like, you can still have your windows open, versus the ones that slide side to side. They're hard. You can't really keep those open when it's raining. You'll have water coming inside your coach. You got an outlet here, has USB-A, USB-C, plus 2 normal outlets. Another Firefly panel for turning lights and stuff off. Of course, you got day-night shades. You can see, here's your day shades. I'm sorry, night shades, and then here's your day shades. The table, this does make a bed right here. This is obviously more for smaller people, or an adult you don't like that much, or his, shorter. The thing about the tables is that when you unlock them, to push them down, push down in the center of the table and not on the very end of it, because when you push on the end, it binds it like this against the wall, and it's just not easy to put down. Whereas if you push in the center, she'll slide right down, no problem. Cushions and stuff are in those bottom storage drawers. If you don't ever plan on using that for a bed, you can just pull all that stuff out and use it for storage. We'll pull these up. So you got lots of storage up here across the top. Another thing that was new for 2025 was the AC covers. Give a lot nicer, cleaner finish versus seeing the AC units. There's a little pull chain up here. This will drop down so you can access the filters and stuff to clean them out. One thing I want to go back into before I forget, any of the light switches that have up and down arrows are dimmable. So if you hold those, like it'll dim the ceiling. You can see over here, it's dimming down. And then what's neat is that on the master, just like on and off, if I hit off and I hit on, it'll return back to the previous state. But if I hold the on button, everything goes to full brightness. So super neat function. We will talk about the cab completely separate on its own. We do have some storage up here, of course some componentry. This up here is where your wind guard control panel is. This is where your power antenna and your Wi-Fi for 5G cellular internet. You can use it as a booster or you can put a card in it. You know, we can talk about all the internet stuff in person. That's a whole nother hour-long video talking about internet. You do have an override switch up here, which that way if you have lights on the back, it'll override these up at the top so it's not shining down the driver if they're driving. Key note on the power antenna is if you got to have it on if you want to watch over-the-air TV, but if you're hooked up to cable outside at an RV park, that has to be off or it won't let the power come through. I'm sorry, it won't let the cable TV come through. You do have an equalizer control panel above the driver's seat, but there's also equalizer controls on the Firefly system. And of course you can do it via your cell phone app as well. Up here you can see that we have the Starlink modem and router, which was factory installed by Renegade. Not hard to add to if it's a coach that doesn't have it. Residential stainless steel refrigerator. The really nice thing about residential refrigerators and why it's so possible, one, you got a massive battery bank, so that's obviously key, but refrigerators are also super energy efficient today. When you go to the dual fuel refrigerators, those systems take up a lot more space in the back, so you lose storage space in the fridges. Those refrigerators and freezers that are dual fuel, like propane and electric, use a lot, cost a lot more money, and they're finicky about being level. Whereas your traditional just residential refrigerator is not finicky about being level. I mean, you can, like, if you park a dual fuel, I've done it, you park a dual fuel refrigerator on a slope, your ice cream starts getting soft, and that is not good. You got slide out drawers for all your spices and kitchen stuff. You have a convection microwave, so bake and microwave. It does have a travel latch so that it can open during travel. These coaches drive extremely quiet. They're so well. I mean, the number one thing about buying a Renegade is the fact of it's the construction. The 2-inch vacuum bonded walls, aluminum tube structure, how thick their fiberglass is, Asdel interior walls. I mean, there's nothing in the walls really to delaminate. There's nothing to rot. The ceilings are made the same way. And then their floor structure. Their floor is 9 inches thick. It's 3-inch steel beams on 2-inch steel trusses, double stacked 2x4s, 3/4-inch plywood, and then you got that heated mat on top of this coach with the porcelain tile. I mean, like, it's a tank. It drives so quiet and smooth going down the road. There are improvements we can do to make it even that much better if you want to upgrade shocks or steering stabilizers. But I mean, these things, I mean, people, I don't have to try. I mean, I need to know the Renegade products. I can educate people about it, but selling it isn't that hard, because if somebody's looking at a competitor's product, I said, look, just do your own research. Go drive the other brand. I don't want to name brands. That's not very nice. Go drive that other brand you're talking about and drive this Renegade. The difference is night and day. Go to the Renegade plant. I'll set you up with a tour with like Kevin or something like that. And then go to like 2 of those other plants, and the difference is night and day. Like, you'll come back and say, like, yeah, the Renegade's a no-brainer. Even if it's a little bit more money, like, it's just the quality difference is so much better. It's just, it's a no-brainer. It's just, you know, those sell themselves. Like, I don't have to do any magic tricks to sell it. Like, you see it for yourself. So when I talk about like how solid these are, that'll rattle. Like, there's just nothing about, you know. So, you know, in my RV, felt or put this somewhere else, you know, to pad this stuff so that while you're driving on the road, that doesn't rattle. But that's like, so when I do test drives, I literally will like pull this out, stick it on, and they see, you know, people here see me do it. I'm like, that's the one thing that'll rattle. I can't help that. You know, that same microwave in a lot of coaches or similar microwaves. So I put this on the couch or something, or on the bed in the back, because that's like, that will rattle. So you got to put something in there to anti-rattle. Obviously, when you're packing dishes, and if you're a seasoned RVer, you know, using felt on your pots and pans and stuff like that to cut the rattle helps a ton. But as far as the coach itself rattling, not going to happen. Soft close drawers. Once again, tons of storage. Remotes. You got touch-up paint, water filter. Is that one can? Yep. Just so everybody knows, this is like the one thing Renegade recommend. It's the, here you go. This is like the one thing Renegade recommends you use on everything to lubricate it. Slides, hinges, doors, chairs. I mean, this is awesome stuff. It's a dry lubricant. It works phenomenally well. That's like the tool you need in the RV. Like when you go, you know, lubricate things for the year or whatever. This stuff's awesome. You can buy it online, no problem. You know, easy peasy. I've been using it for a long time myself. Stuff works great. You do have a true induction cooktop. You got a 2-burner. It does require special pots and pans if you're not familiar with induction cooktop. But induction cookware is backwards compatible. It is backwards compatible with like normal other stoves, gas or electric or whatever it may be. And then you got a single basin sink. One of the things I'll mention real quick so I don't forget is in 2025 they did move to the Eclipse version for the Vega Touch Firefly system in the coach, Firefly integration. And what that helps with is the Eclipse module is Wi-Fi enabled. So now instead of just only locally being able to control your coach, you can control your coach as long as your coach has, if your coach has internet and this is connected to your internet on your coach, then you have a cell phone, you could check the interior temperature of your coach from anywhere in the world. It's great for pets and stuff like that. It just gives you peace of mind that, you know, you go out to eat or a winery or whatever and you want to make sure pets are okay. You know, you can look to see what the temperature of your coach is. If it's getting warm or you forgot to turn the air on, you could do all that stuff right there from your phone. Window right behind the sink. Of course, you got more storage up here. Renegade does a great job of providing an owner's manual. They've got a nice little thick section in the front, just all the kind of the key things you need to know. Stuff like, you know, they want you to have the jacks down before you level. Jacks down before you run any slides in or out. And then, of course, your owner's books for the chassis itself. So the Cummins engine, Allison transmission. You, of course, have a smart TV with a sound bar below it. Let's see if I can't. Bear with me here. The TV swings out. Here you go. And then you've got storage actually behind the TV. This would be a great place to bolt in like a safe. I carry a pistol and a pistol safe, and this would be a good place to put that back here, extra cash wallet or whatever. Not as easily seen. Alright. More drawer storage underneath that. And then, of course, you've got cabinet storage down here. If you decided that you wanted a fireplace here, that's, once again, that's an easily added item. We just had to literally undo these hinges, and it's all got the wiring back there already. We can easily put in an electric fireplace. Electric fire, like, they're cool and nice and everything, but I mean, and they put off some heat, but in my mind, in the Explorer, like functionality-wise, you've already got heated floors, you've already got heat pumps, you've already got an aqua-hot system. You know, you lose storage space with that fireplace, and it's just, I don't know. But if you want it, we can add it. It's not a problem. These little black things you see on the wall are temperature sensors. There's one for the front and the rear of the coach. So that gives you a nice average temperature through the coach for the thermostat, so that when it's going through and reading everything, it knows kind of keep an average temperature. Just so you know what the heck it is. So we'll start on the home screen for the Firefly system. You've got your master light on-off control here. Same thing, you can hold the on button to go to full brightness, off, and if you just hit on quickly, it'll return to the previous state for your lights. Of course, your fresh gray and black tank levels, water pump, your tank heaters for your gray and your black tank. So if you're in cold weather climates, your fresh tank is actually underneath the bed. It's 150 gallons. It's 2 75-gallon tanks that are tied together. So as long as you're keeping your coach heated, those tanks are fine. Those 2 water tanks are fine. You see your house voltage, your chassis voltage. Of course, you can start and stop your generator from here, and it shows you your hours. Generator, the first service is at 50 hours, then 150 hours after that. And then you got a quick access to your AGS controls. And then, of course, there's the temperature sensors I was just talking about. You got a rear one that's at 72, front one's at 73. Aqua-hot burner, aqua-hot electric, and an aqua-hot preheat. So for the aqua-hot system to work, you have to tell it what sources of either energy or fuel it's allowed to use. So if I hit electric, the only thing the aqua-hot system can use is electric. If I hit the burner, the only thing it can use is the burner with diesel fuel. You turn both of them on and it will automatically determine, like, okay, electric will do the job. Or if you start taking a shower heating the coach, I need to burn diesel fuel for a higher BTU. And then the aqua-hot preheat is that preheat function between the engine and the aqua-hot system itself. So there's a heat exchanger, so utilizing the heat from the engine to heat up the aqua-hot, or using the aqua-hot system to preheat the engine. Then we'll go on your lighting control. So you got front lighting, rear lighting, exterior lighting. Like I said, everything with up and down arrows is dimmable. You got a front master and of course an interior master. This is your energy panel. Here's your power source. You can see 50 amp auto, so that tells us that we're hooked up to 50 amp. It's automatically, taking care of itself. Line 1, 118 volts. Line 2, 120 volts. We got 15 amps on line 1, 13 amps on line 2, and then the hertz. It should be somewhere around 60 hertz. That's what's normal for electricity. If we were to dog bone it down to a 30 amp, the coach only sees the one leg. It's got no idea how to tell how many amps it's capable of handling because it just sees that one line. And so it will automatically default to 15 amps. And if you are like on a 30 amp dog bone, you can just click this button manually and it'll let you bump it up to 30 amp if you're on 30 amp. But it doesn't it's automatically protecting itself, because if it went to go draw 30 amps, you're either going to kick a breaker on a house or melt something somewhere. Or on a pole at a campground or whatever it may be. Of course, it repeats some functions: start, stop generator, AGS settings, of course, voltage again, the status of the inverter, and then charge, no charge. So right now everything is charged up. We'll start with the Victron Servo. So this is what I was talking about. I bet he unplugged the coach when Jody was out here doing something, showing a cut, and I bet he unplugged it. But you have. So on the servo, which I showed you outside, it shows you what your AC input is, so how many watts are coming in from your AC. Basically, it's what you're pulling. So it's telling you like, hey, we're pulling 3,000 watts to be able to charge the system and run whatever appliances that you're trying to do, and it shows you line 1 and line 2. And then of course you have your inverter, which charging and inverting is on. And then if you look at our battery right now is 100%, and then we've got 1,741 watts that's currently being drawn, but it's being charged back, or will start charging back once it drops a little bit. 129 amps, which this is all 12 volt, keep in mind, not 110. And then you got AC load. So if I start kicking stuff on that requires AC, so air conditioners, TVs and all that kind of stuff, you'll start to see your AC load. And then this is solar, so this is how much solar is coming in. We're currently parked inside of a building, so we have no solar going on. So this is just kind of neat. And then if I was to start up let's say I was driving down the road, so what's really neat about having that second inverter is you can run that air conditioner off the inverter with your batteries. And so I did a little test for fun. You have a 300, let me double check here. It's 320, I think. I'm hurrying here. Let's see. It's dang it, I just saw it on the, I think it's a 320 amp alternator. It used to be 300, and I think it's a 320. Yep. Yeah, you have a 320 amp alternator, which is quite a bit. And so if your air conditioner is drawing 1,300 watts and you run down the road with your alternator, well, your alternator is doing easily keeping up with the demand of your 12-volt systems on the chassis. And so, your air conditioner is pulling energy from the inverter, which is pulling energy from the batteries, but you've got an alternator that's pushing current back through your inverter to charge your battery system. So the test I did with an air conditioner running at full, of course, energy is going to fluctuate some because battery charging changes in speed depending on where it's at on the current state of charge. But like in this situation, like with a 75% charged battery, I was running an air conditioner and I was still pumping 1,000 watts back to the battery's charging. So you can run your air conditioner traveling and still show up wherever you're going for the day. If it's 5-6 hour trip with a full battery when you get there. Another thing that's neat about that is you have an 8,000 watt generator. So if all you're wanting to do is to run an air conditioner to cool the coach down while you're traveling, it's kind of excessive to run an 8,000 watt generator if you don't have to, just to get 1,300 watts to run an air conditioner. So this way you don't have to run that generator. And of course the generators in a lot of coaches for Super C are located behind the rear tires. And so, highway's no big deal, but if you're in dustier roads, that generator's now, of course, it's got filters, but it's pulling more dirt and dust off the road, potentially requiring a sooner service. Let's go back to the electric panel. So we talked about all that. So let's go to AGS settings. So AGS is automatic gen start, and you're basically telling your coach to start on two variables, either state of charge or HVAC load. And of course, you can set quiet hours if whether you be somewhere where you can't run a generator for a certain period of the day. A lot of places are like 8 to 8, or 8 to 8 is probably the most common. Some places like Acadia, there's like chunks of the day you can't run generators. It's not just one chunk. It's like from this time to this time you can run a generator, and this time to this time you can run a generator. So that wouldn't necessarily work, but most places are like 8 to 8 or something like that. So then at 40%, it'll start charging. Minimum runtime is 30 minutes because typically when a generator starts running, you don't want to just shut it down. You want to let it cycle some. Maximum runtime is 240, which in 240 minutes you should definitely be charging your system back or cooling your coach down in that period of time. Stop at 100%. Time at stop percent 60 minutes. So it's just making sure that it is actually fully charged and continue to charge in that system. Lithium operates a little bit different. That's something we can talk about more in detail, but you get the basics. And then generator restart tries is 4. That's by default. The reason for that is the generator has no idea how much fuel, the generator in this has no idea how much diesel fuel is in the coach. And so if it can't draw out of the diesel tank and you're down to that quarter tank limit, it won't just sit there and start. Like it'll just try 4 times and quit. And we can talk more, this is stuff we can talk more about in person, but you get the general idea. For AGS to work, you got to enable it, but you also got to make sure you've got whatever triggers you want to cause automatic gen start to actually come on. So it's kind of two steps. If I have both triggers off and AGS is on, it'll never come on. If I got both triggers on and I don't have AGS on, it won't come on. And every time you put the key in the ignition, it disables automatic gen start. And that is because if you drove from a campground to, I know people who have garages attached to their house that'll accommodate 40-foot coaches. Well, you go park it in your garage and you're sleeping in your house at night and the battery voltage drops. Now AGS kicks on and you're blowing carbon monoxide into your house. So, it makes you re-enable it every time after you move the coach, which is a safety feature. HVAC stuff is super simple. You go straight down. These are your systems. Those are your fan speeds. You've got rear and front control. Your AquaHot is dual zone as well, so you can have the front and rear 2 different heat settings. Your floor has a front and rear as well. You also have heating for the bay outside, so you don't freeze your control bay with your water controls in it. You got your toilet fan in the front and your rear bath fan. And just make sure I touch base. And you've also got like additional spots to turn AquaHot burner on and AquaHot electric. And then if you go down here, that's your bedroom fan on the ceiling. And then here's your slide controls. If you put a key in the ignition, it will lock them. Renegade does not want you running the engine running while running slides in and out. It is not necessary. I get that phone call, my slides won't go off or in and out. Is your key in the, I always have to ask the dumb questions first. Key in the ignition? Oh yeah. So Of course, you got 2 rear slides, you got 2 front slides. This coach really opens up. Your leveling system, you can manually level, or you can auto level or auto retract. Boy, people go back and forth. I'm personally a manual leveler because by manually leveling, you can like lift it up of the bare minimum to get it level. Whereas any coach, any product with leveling systems, if you auto level, like they seem to always over level a little. So the coach is higher off the ground than really what's necessary. Like I told my mom, she's got a Verona. I said, you know, if it takes it way off the ground to level it, then she could just kind of like manually drop it down some, like in the front and the rear. Like if I start pushing buttons, the jacks start moving. It's that simple. And then you got your settings page. So you got the mobile app where you can scan to download the app to your phone. There's your pin and information. Of course, diagnostic stuff is kind of more for the technician side of it. Cleaning mode just locks the screen so you can clean it so you're not pushing a bunch of buttons. Obviously, if you're trying to use quiet hours for your generator, you need to make sure that time is correct. If you go into network diagnostics, and if you go to, outputs, you can see like all the outputs. So if you're having an issue with something, you can see if it's lighting up green or not. And if you see a red, then you know that you have an issue. So like if I turn on the water pump, that'll turn green. If it turns red or doesn't turn green, you know there's legit like an issue. So gives you a good idea. So you have a half bath in this coach, midship, right across the main entry door. It's a macerator toilet. What's really cool about macerator toilets, and I know a lot of people, they won't even use chemicals in these things because it's being ground down behind the toilet. There's a grinder in the back of that toilet, and it pushes it through like a 3/4 inch line like to the black tank. So it's not like it's dumping straight into a black tank like a lot of your traditional RVs that have the odor that come up. Like these just don't do that. Now, please still put a liquid. Don't use the packets. Still put a liquid chemical in your toilet. You still want that bacteria in there breaking stuff down to keep that tank ultimately very clean over all the years of usage. But I know people who don't. You've got eco mode, which is basically number 1. You got a normal mode, which is number 2. And then you got an empty. And you can see this is green, like good to go. Turn yellow at half and then red at full. And when you get to red, it'll give you like 3 or 4 more flushes. And then there's if you look at the owner's manual, there's a bypass. You can make it flush, but there's a certain way you got to do it. Off the top of my head, I don't know. You got storage up here above the toilet. More storage over here next to your vanity. So you get, nice little storage. Another one of your Firefly panels. One thing about the bathroom and warning I've seen people happen is, people have a tendency to put stuff in here, like, for travel in their bathrooms and stuff. This one maybe not big as a deal because you got to like lift up on it to get it to come on, but the ones where it's got to be pushed to the side, like, so not an Explorer, but there are models where I had a customer, like, they had their water pump on, they were driving down the road, and then something like on the counter fell over and hit the handle and started dumping water in the sink. This was closed, and it dumped 150 gallons of water in the coach because the water never made it to the front. They were up there jamming out to like Aerosmith, and then they show up, and of course I see the water coming. They were in here for service, so I saw the water like pouring out of the sides, and of course he's like, oh no, and so we dried it up though, no big deal. So I do not recommend traveling with a water pump on. Just because you just never know what might get hit or whatever. You got a mini king in the back, which is 4 inches shorter than your typical king. That covers for the step well. So if you want to cover the step well for your pets, children, grandkids, or whatever it may be, you can do that. You have the ones that have the slide outs for the bed are super nice because you got those 2 small windows. So if you're camping somewhere where the weather is really nice, 60, 65 degrees at night and cool, you can turn on your ceiling fan, turn on a fan like in one of the bathrooms, like your rear bath back here, and get like nice airflow coming in. I mean, I RV myself, so I get this, right? So you get that nice airflow around you while you're trying to sleep, and not necessarily have to run an air conditioner. Of course, storage cabinets up above. The rear unit too, it's got that wood cover over it to give it a nice clean look finish. Move this over. There are 2 75-gallon water tanks. That's the AquaHot radiant heat, where the glycol goes through the radiator, which is heated by the AquaHot system, and then little fans blow that across the coach. What's really nice about AquaHot is it does an awesome job of evenly heating the coach from floor to ceiling. There's your water pump. There's a nice clear hose in there where you can divert so that the water pump will pull from like a gallon, I usually use like a Lowe's bucket, a 5-gallon bucket of antifreeze to winterize the coach. There's your main dump valve over there to dump all the fresh water out of your tanks when you're winterizing. You can see that hose right there is part of the central vac system. And then that's part of the Firefly system right there. One of the points where some of the stuff ties together. We'll go back here. This is the rear bathroom. Of course, you got another macerating toilet. This is where your washer and dryer is. The one thing that I hear from people, you know, the RVs that have, like, I've never personally used one, but the combination units apparently don't do very good drying. Whereas when you have a separate dryer from a separate wash machine, they tend to work a little bit better. That wash machine for a load of laundry uses about 11 gallons of water per load. Of course, you got another sink back here, additional storage, more drawers. This unit was ordered with the teak shower seat. You got the bar for the shower head, it slides up and down. Got a skylight. You got all kinds of storage. There's another one of your Firefly control panels back here. You got a water pump button in both bathrooms in case you're trying to use the sink. Of course, your fan, and then you got some light controls as well. You got a wardrobe back here with some shelves below it. On top of having wardrobes on both sides of the bedroom TV. And then put this back over here. Down here, this is your bay, your entertainment bay for your TV. There's an HDMI cord and stuff down there if you want to hook up a DVD player, satellite box for your bedroom. Just drawer storage. One thing, I'll go up here as we work back up towards the front. Oh, the emergency exit window. So that is hinged at the top. If you open it, it doesn't fall off, but there's nothing to keep it propped open. I mean, I know there's some people who like all the airflow they can get, and they come up with ways to prop that window open, but emergency exit window can't have anything restricting it from opening. So, you know, when you unlatch that, like, it'll swing all the way out, and you can exit the coach. You know, that's a fire marshal required item, along with your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and your fire extinguisher. On your entertainment bay up here underneath the TV, you've got an HDMI cord right here. This feeds this TV and the exterior TV. So whatever you plug into this, whether it be a satellite box, a gaming console, or whatever it may be, this will feed this TV and the outside TV simultaneously. So if you know the sports games and all that kind of stuff, that comes in handy, or movies. I think the last thing we have to cover is the cab. Obviously, if you have questions, just let us know. So I'll talk about some quick stuff about the cab. Obviously, when Cascadia or Freightliner updated their cab, you know, we got more steering wheel controls as far as like telephone and volume controls, cruise control, of course your city horn in the center. So that's really nice from Freightliner. They've started stepping up their game and kind of getting their cabs more modern for the next generation. Their panel takes a second to light up, and the lights don't even stay on that long. But I will say that in your informational display here, which is super nice, it lights. I mean, I'll turn it on once, I guess. Of course, it's going to beep during my talking here, but their display pops up, and then of course you got fuel and def level gauge down here. If I can't get it in there, there we go. And then up here at the top is where all your engine lights were at. The federal government really has jacked up our engine light system because they require us to have engine lights for different things like emission systems. And so you got red lights, you got one that says check, you got one that's just yellow. So my advice on the engine lights is, you know, all your yellow, there's over and I don't even know what the current statistic is today, but I mean, years ago, we already had over 2,000 operations going on per second on an engine's ECM. So that, it's control module. So there's glitchy stuff that can happen. Low battery voltage can cause issues. And just, I've had a sensor like read a fault because I had it parked over a shiny piece of metal, and it, like, the heat off the sun caused the temperature sensor to fault out, and of course it took me forever to figure that out because it would go away and come back. So like all your yellow stuff is like precautionary, like, do you hear, feel, see anything different that needs to be addressed? Because faults also have the ability to self-heal. So if it's a trigger of a sensor due to a low battery voltage situation that causes it to kind of have, air out or whatever, if you get the battery back up to current charge state, driving it or whatever, if it doesn't see those faults continuously coming back, it'll go away. So there's no reason with a yellow engine light to run to a dealership unless you have a clear, noticeable issue that you can hear, see, or smell or whatever it may be, which typically you won't. Now, the red, so you have a check light, which, admission system, you have a yellow light, which is engine, and then you have a red engine light. Now, those lights can come on in combinations together depending on what the fault is, but the key thing is if the red engine light pops up here at the top, that is only associated to catastrophic engine failure, and that means to pull over as quick as you can as long as it is safe for you to do so. So obviously don't stop in the middle of Miami traffic in the middle of the highway. Like, I would try to get over to a shoulder or off an exit if you can. But that is, like, and a perfect simple example of a catastrophic engine failure would be you blow a radiator hose, you've dumped all your coolant, like the motor's going to blow up at some point because you're not cooling the engine anymore. And it will derate itself and slow down as well. It's going to try to protect itself. Believe it or not, there's a lot of truck drivers in this world that would continue to drive until the truck blew up because they're just trying to get home. So we've implemented things that force the truck to kind of protect itself. There's also a little light that comes on that looks like a thermometer, and so which is a high exhaust temperature light. That'll come on when, if your vehicle has been in a region while you're driving to bake down the soot that's in the diesel particulate filter, which all happens on its own. It's nothing you got to worry about, but it does create a lot of exhaust heat, and so that little thermometer will come on yellow. That's just a informational light. There's nothing wrong. When that light first came out in 2007, we had truckers rolling in all the time like, I got a light on. Well, it's just a light telling you that your exhaust temperatures are hot so that when you go to stop, pull off at a fuel station, that you don't park over dead grass or a children's playground. Like, it's just informational of high exhaust temperature, nothing to worry about. A lot of the new vehicles have gone to a stock shifter, so you select drive, neutral, and reverse. Of course, you can go into a manual shifting mode where you bump your gears up and down, like especially if you're going down a mountain. And then, of course, your engine brake is a matter of bumping it down from stage 1 to stage 3 engine brake. So it's all right there, super handy, easy to get to. One of the things that was a focus of the trucking industry, of course, this goes into the the RV industry too, is ergonomics for the drivers, taking away like the shifter panels that were here, so that you got all this leg room, like, the guys that are super tall, or the guys that like to sit a certain way, or, sit back all gangster style and lean back and hold out, and, that you're not hitting your legs or knees against nothing. You do have, of course, you more than likely will not need to use your trailer air supply brake unless you're pulling an air trailer. Keep in mind that big vehicles like this do not have a park prawl. So the only thing that keeps this vehicle from rolling when it is stopped is its actual air parking brake. So if you got to make sure you pull that when you park. And what's neat about air brakes and why they're so safe is air. So on your brake chambers on the rear of the coach, there's a really strong spring in there. I don't know what the crazy PSI is, but there's a strong spring in there that keeps the brake locked for park. Like, the spring just keeps it locked. And the way the parking brake gets released, so when you push this to release it, it sends air into that brake chamber and compresses that spring so that it will release the park brake. So if you lose air to the coach, the parking brakes lock up. And that makes them super safe because, a hydraulic brake situation, if you lose hydraulic fluid, your brakes get soft and spongy and you lose braking control. So air brakes are the flip. You'll lock up. You will lose the ability to keep your brakes open. And then on the other side of that brake chamber, of course, it's kind of a two-sided brake chamber. is, you know, the one side's pushing air to keep the spring open, and then the other side's pushing to apply the brakes as you're going down the road. So air brake systems are super awesome. I mean, they've been around for a long time. Their stopping power is phenomenal. You know, it's great to have air brakes. You've got, and the air brake system is redundant, so there's actually 2 air brake systems, 2 air tanks, and so it's got its own kind of backup system, and you just rarely ever hear a failure. And usually if there is, like, you hear a news story, it's usually a driver crazy air thing, like things that would blow your mind. You do have a locking differential in this coach. Keep in mind that that is for going forward at slow speeds. You know, you don't want to be making tight turns with that on, because it'll drag your tires, because both tires are turning together at the same speed. And anytime you turn, the inside tire is turning slower than the outside tire, so you'd be actually dragging it. So that's when you're trying to have a sticky situation. The ability to switch between your truck camera and your trailer cam if you do have a trailer cam plugged in. You also have the ability to dump your rear air. That's beneficial, that if the rear of your coach is really high where you're parked and you want to level, you can go ahead and dump that airbag in the rear to bring the back down first, so that when you go to level, the jacks don't have to do as much work. If the front end's already really high, dumping the airbags doesn't help that much. You can do it, it doesn't hurt to do it, but it's not really going to help. The informational display here, that's, you know, radio, cell phone, some light controls, your tire pressure system, gauges for coolant temperatures, you know, that's all displayed in here. And that's more of a, all displayed in here. That is more for, you know, us, it's easier for us to show in person and kind of go through it, because there's a lot there. It's another really long video if I do that. Maybe I should do a video just on that. Climate controls, of course, you've got USB ports up here. You got your power output here for, like, your cigarette adapter for those, you know, whatever you may have, you know, GPS Garmin's or whatever it may be, or extra stuff you want to add. There's obviously navigation in this as well. All right, so my camera battery died, so it's like talking, it's like beep. So real quick, so the dedicated camera monitor. That's one of the really neat things about Explorer and some of the other models, is having a dedicated camera monitor. It comes from Renegade that way. I'm a huge advocate of dedicated camera monitor. I think if your coach doesn't have a dedicated camera monitor, that's like by far #1 thing you can easily upgrade to, because all we got to do when we add them to, like, Verona LEs, Valencias, you know, we put a RAM track up here, which then we can mount our screen to, which doesn't take up any more real estate on the windshield, because the collision mitigation camera sits right behind it. We can run the wires. We don't even have to drill holes for wires. We literally, there's enough gap back here that we can run the wires up between the windshield and the header, and then we come across and we run right down the B pillar. So, or A pillar, I think it's A pillar. Don't quote me on that. It goes down the pillar. So, and then we come back and it goes out to the cameras and stuff. So, easy for us to do, and then that way you have a dedicated monitor. It's like kind of rear view mirror. You can always see what's coming up behind you, what's going on with your tow car. But of course, it's standard on the Explorer, so it's a super nice function to have. I like the fact that it's actually buttons versus touchscreen. So when you're driving, you know, you can click, you just grab a button, right? You know, because you're driving. I'm not a huge I mean, touchscreen's cool. Not a huge touchscreen guy when it comes to driving, because you have to, like, look to see where you're touching, versus, like, I feel the button, right? I can feel that's the button I'm grabbing for. So having the dedicated, of course, when you flip your left turn, the camera pops up. You flip your right turn, it pops up. You know, it doesn't take over for the screen, and, you know, you can't see your navigation, you know, if you're using your thing, you know, your main screen for navigational purposes. So that's a no-brainer. Awesome to have a dedicated camera. You'll use the fire out of that. You have a hole up here for a CB. Man, CBs are not as, if you're like traveling with people, other people in convoys and like big groups of, you know, like, CBs are pretty cool. You can all chit chat back and forth. Other truck drivers, like, they're hit or miss, and sometimes you got to hear stuff you really don't want to hear. Things you might learn something that you did not know was possible. So, got storage up here, of course, above your driver's seat. If you want to look at refresher on some of the lights in the dash, they got some of the emissions stuff up here to give you some detail on kind of what that is. A lovely mirror. Of course, you got map lights up here. Another storage bay on this side. And then, of course, your seats. They put a really nice Sears seat in the Explorer. Has a lot of adjustments for lumbar. Of course, it's air ride up and down. They swivel and all that kind of stuff. You know, you really just have to get in them. You know, if you like them or not. Some people, These are really nice seats, so you probably won't have that problem. But you know, if you really like, for the guy, when I'm talking to people, for the guy who like, they're the racers, right? And they do them long hauls to the racetrack, you know, when they're traveling. And it's, you know, the longest I've ever driven is 900 miles, like in a motorhome. That's a lot. So, you know, it's like having like the perfect seat that I find comfortable or has the bazillion adjustments, you know, can make a big difference, you know. But if you're the person who drives 2 hours a day, like, you're not gonna get that much value out of spending a ton of money on a seat. You're not sitting in long enough. But if that's, you know, seat conversation needs to happen, we can. But these are very nice seats. But obviously, just like a mattress, there's firm, soft, you know, all different directions. So, you know, we can talk about that if that needs to be addressed. And that's really the whole coach. I mean, it's a long video. James is going to do a shorter video to just kind of hit some highlights for the people who don't want to do the in-depth with Kyle. Stuff up here to give you some detail on kind of what that is. A lovely mirror. Of course, you got map lights up here. Another storage bay on this side. And then, of course, your seats. They put a really nice Sears seat in the Explorer. Has a lot of adjustments for lumbar. Of course, it's air ride up and down. They swivel and all that kind of stuff. You know, you really just have to get in them, you know, if you like them or not. Some people, these are really nice seats, so you probably won't have that problem. But you know, if you really like, for the guy, when I'm talking to people, for the guy who like, they're the racers, right? And they do them long hauls to the racetrack, you know, when they're traveling. And it's, you know, the longest I've ever driven is 900 miles, like in a motorhome. That's a lot. So, you know, it's like having like the perfect seat that I find comfortable or has the bazillion adjustments, you know, can make a big difference, you know. But if you're the person who drives 2 hours a day, like, you're not gonna get that much value out of spending a ton of money on a seat. You're not sitting in long enough. But if that's, you know, seat conversation needs to happen, we can. But these are very nice seats. But obviously, just like a mattress, there's firm, soft, you know, all different directions. So, you know, we can talk about that if that needs to be addressed. And that's really the whole coach. I mean, it's a long video. James is going to do a shorter video to just kind of hit some highlights for the people who don't want to do the in-depth with Kyle. Once again, my name is Kyle Koeberlein. I'm the sales director for Bluegrass Truck, Bus, and RV. I'm, you know, it's just a title. At the end of the day, we are a team here at Bluegrass. We act like a team. We work as a team. We have fun as a team. It's me, as far as the Renegade sales team, it's me, Bethany Hughes, James Wade. James Wade, as the first of the year, is our RV sales specialist. He comes from a decade of experience in the shop, helping with the Renegade product. He is sharp as a tack. That's going to be a huge asset to us because we definitely pride the customer experience here. We want to educate customers. You know, the sale is something that happens when it all comes together. It's not something that we force the day you walk in the door. If you walk in here and you go, oh, well, you know, my wife and I want to retire in a couple of years. You know, a lot of RV people, not I'm saying all, but a lot of RV people out there, like, they don't have time of day for you because they're not selling you anything because they know you're going to be 2 years out from making that decision. We won't do that to you. We'll be more than happy to show you RVs, let you test drive RVs. You know, and that way when you're ready, I have several deals that we closed 2 years later because they came back and we worked through that process. Now, I also have deals that I worked with on 2 years and they still bought somewhere else. And I had a customer call me, they're like, man, this was like during COVID era. And they were like, Kyle, like, I found a canceled unit where a customer decided not to take it. It's what I want. And I'm thinking, like, if the price is right, like, how come you even bought it? Like, I get it. Like, if you need service work, come on back by. We'll help you out. But yeah, thanks for watching another one of my videos. We're always happy to help answer questions and talk to you soon.